All right, we have a Stampscapes quick card here. It's going to be a little bit tricky with a couple of the impressions because we're using the holographic cardstock. Okay, that's not a printable cardstock, and we're using the gold mirrored foil down below. Okay, so we're going to couple that for hopefully a dramatic, I don't know, kind of whatever, final result. Okay, but everything's going to be stamped out onto this with StazOn ink, okay? So StazOn ink on foils, it can be a little bit tricky, and I've always mentioned that in my videos, just in terms of the transferring of the ink onto the surface. Sometimes it works on better on certain surfaces than others. Certain types of imagery works better on these types of non-porous surfaces than others, and it's just things like how wet your pad is and how much surface area there is on a given design can matter. So we'll show you all those different types of things in this quick card format here. We're just going to be doing impressions today. We won't be doing any kind of, I don't know, volumes and things like that I like to do. But I also like to do quick cards too. It's a nice challenge, and I don't know, they're just fun to do. Forgive my head if that's in the way there. Okay, so I'm stamping this. I kind of went above, I think, my card a little bit, you know, like down here. I don't know, I might have matched it up. I went a little bit lower on this card yesterday, where you can see, I don't know if you can see it here, the edge of the design. I mean, it didn't really matter because it's mostly about the waves down here. But we're going to do a version of this photo stamping card that I did last night in the live stream. We always like to come up with, I don't know, certain types of techniques, compositions, whatever, sequencing on certain types of cards, and I don't really care how long it takes me to do them. But then what I like to do is to come up with a quick version of those same types of projects. All right, so we're stamping this down. I'm kind of holding it down a little bit longer than certain types of whatever, impression making. I guess you don't need to hold it down too long. I tend to do that as a habit. StazOn ink really dries very fast. Okay, so I have this right here. All right, now it's not a perfect impression. I noticed on here, I got a little blotchy there, so there's some missing areas in here. But this, I mean, it's not really going to matter too much, okay? Because, you know, there's just so much kind of visual excitement and noise that's going to be added, okay? All right, now getting a big design down like that, okay, it's not quite as tricky, believe it or not, as doing some smaller designs like this, okay? So I'm going to do some reeds and these little rock textures in the foreground like this, okay? So here's where it's easy to kind of stamp this down and to have it slide a little bit or skew, okay? And you can feel it when you do it, okay? So I kind of just keep a nice steady hand like this. I mean, it's not hard or anything like that. You kind of get the feel of it. And the thing that makes this different is that we don't have any ink absorbing into the surface, okay? It just stays all on the surface, okay? It's not going into the pulp of paper or something like that. You can see where I've changed my angle so I have good access to this. Now right here, I'm going to add kind of a more condensed application of this tiny rock small on the perimeter here. And what that's going to do is it's going to kind of darken the edges right here. I like to make my four corners a little bit darker typically, if I can. And that kind of, it frames off the scene a little bit. Now, I'm not going to be doing any more toning with some additional ink on here. Last night I used some alcohol inks in here to tone underneath my waves, but you can see right here where I've darkened my, here we go. You can kind of see it a little bit. You can see my reflection in there. There we go. It's a little bit darker right here and here. So can you see it kind of frames off the piece? And then when I'm stamping out here, when I first ink it up, I stamp it on the outside to give myself a good impression. Then with each additional impression I make from it, it gets lighter and lighter. So it looks kind of lighter in the middle and darker on the perimeters like that. So you just go like from outside to inside. All right, so it's kind of going like this. And then it gets lighter in the middle, okay? And the opposite from the other side. All right, now this one right here. I don't really skew too much with that little one, but this one right here, for some reason, maybe it's a bigger stamp. You don't want to slide it around a little, too much, or really at all, but you can practice with it, practice on a test piece, just have a piece of foil. This foil is very inexpensive. So see, I'm kind of going two hands. I'm kind of doing this and making an impression. Now, if you have a stamp positioner for this one, Misty or something like that, you don't need to worry about it. It's not going to be sliding around like that. I don't know if I'd use a Misty for like a small design like this. That might take a while to stamp, move it, stamp, move it, stamp, But something like this, if you feel more comfortable. But see this right here? I'm just kind of going for nice, even impressions as I stamp down. I'm holding. Even when I do this once in a while, I'll skew a little bit. Maybe I just re-ink my pad or something like that. And it's super juicy, and I haven't done this for a while, it happens. In fact, I just stamped something, I don't know, it was like a couple days ago or something like that. And it was with my next stamp. These horses right here. These horses have a lot more surface area, okay? And I'm going to do my best to stamp it right on the lower edge of this holographic cardstock. And again, it's not a printable holographic cardstock like certain types of cards, vinyl sticker papers that I use. Okay, but here's those reeds down there like that. And, okay, let me show you what I'm going to do. Now, here's the other thing that I have here. It's like a permanent marker, like a Sharpie. This one's the Amazon one, but any type of permanent marker like that will do. We've inked up here adequately. If I get a full impression, I'm going to be really surprised. But I haven't stamped on this holographic one in a while. Some of these grab the ink a little bit more than others. Most of the times it doesn't, though. Okay, hold. Don't press like super hard with this. You want to have a pretty good pressure, but don't like squish it down or anything like that. Again, sometimes you get this like haloing around the edge, with that. I mean, I might get it on this one still, but you got to be careful about that. And this is where, I tend to skew it a little bit, I'm not even sure I'm not sure if I moved it right there or not. Okay, let's see what we have here. It usually doesn't stamp out too well in the middle. Okay, now I got a pretty good one on this one. But see that top portion in there? And it gets a little blotchy on here. I think right here, I probably held onto this too long, and I think the ink dried. So when I lifted it, a lot of the ink dried attached to the rubber more than transferring to the surface right in here, okay? Now, you can always go for additional impressions, okay? Doing a Misty or something like that, give it again, ink up again and hit it again. But for me, I'll show you what I'm going to do here, and I'll try to capture it on video here. But see that right there? That's not a really strong impression at all, okay? But it's almost like an outline here that you can color in. And don't worry, you don't have to be like perfect with it. I got to get in that ear or something like that. It's not like that. Okay, so I'm trying to look down here, and, there's a little bit of glare. I get some of that dried ink on my pen here once in a while as I'm doing this. It's almost like, it's almost like I'm removing some of that ink that I've already laid down too, okay? So as I'm drawing with this, I can feel it kind of getting a little mucky It's not a real flat application, so I kind of keep wiping off like this to get that dried ink off of the surface of my pen here, okay? So that's a little bit uneven too still. I don't know if you can tell right there. It's not very flat, okay? But let that dry, and I'll show you what to do here. See, it's because we're still kind of going, not quite on the bare surface of this paper, but it's a little bit. So we're going to try to build it up a little bit, okay? The second one's going a little bit easier. I have a feeling because the StazOn ink was drying on there still with that first one. This pen here isn't super juicy. Kind of a wetter one would probably be a little bit better. But I'll try to make this a little bit kind of harder for myself this time just to make a point. You can just kind of scribbling around in there. Okay, now to get a little bit of a flatter application like that where it's not quite so blotchy, what I'll do is I'll go back and I'm feeling like the second application, okay, is going on a little bit nicer, kind of. I'm kind of just touching down. I'm going like this around here. I'm not going like this, okay? That might rub off the ink. So sometimes you're kind of dabbing it down and it's leaving a little bit of a kind of a dot puddle of ink. So it's like this type of thing, okay? So you just kind of change your kind of motion a little bit. It just depends, probably relative humidity, might come into play. It's just how fast this ink is drying, and permanent ink dries pretty fast. Depends how juicy your pen is. But, I mean, it's going to be basically the same type of technique. So just kind of feel around, adjust accordingly. It's like adaptation. See, it's like as I'm going in here, if I rub, it's almost like removing ink. So I'm going in there and kind of filling in that little dot area or line of ink removal, I guess. All right, so see, that looks pretty decent like that. It's pretty solid now. Oh, here, see, you can see it right there. Here, this one right here is less solid. So let's go in here and add a little bit more. I'll try to go out into the leg a little bit more too. All right, there we go, like that. Now that's very glary, it'll look more like this or something. And let's see right here. We have it like this. It's a pretty cool looking card, I'd say, like that. Okay, now one of the things that on this type of paper like this, for me, that I think it can use a little bit more dynamics. So I often do like some white stars up in the sky. And I would recommend doing that. You can do it with you can do it by hand with just a acrylic paint pen. But I like to go with the Dr. Martin's Bleed Proof White. It's a real opaque watercolor paint, okay? And I just take an old toothbrush like this. If you've done splatter painting as a kid, you know, when you're in elementary school or something like that, you can do that here. You don't want to put this right over this and splatter directly down because you can get a blob of it, okay? So what you do is you just turn it at an angle, and you go like this. And I don't go zip, okay? You just kind of let out a few kind of drops at a time. I'm going to try to go for a little bit of a diagonal, as if it's like the Milky Way or something like that. And I'll show you how this looks. Now this dries really fast. It's a really great paint. It's not dry yet, but it might dry within, I don't know, minute maybe 30 seconds, I don't know. But see that like that? See how that dynamic that is up in the sky? It kind of, this is a really loud holographic type of paper. Holographics just in general are really loud, of course, but it gives us something a little bit more static up in the sky like that. Just to kind of anchor things down in addition to the static, you know, impressions of these horses like this. So, all right, right here, let's see, let's put this above like that. And we get this looking like this. Of course, I need to get everything kind of flattened out on here and adhered to my card base. But let's do this right here. So I put this quote stamp right up here on this one, and I think it would look good on the inside, but I thought it would also look good just right on the outside right here, as on the front of our card. This is stamped onto printable holographic vinyl sticker paper. Now on this one right here, it's a printable vinyl. Okay, you see it's nice and flappy like that. And it has this surface on there that allows us to stamp with water-based media. So I use a Brilliance black water-based pigment ink. Dye-based inks will work too. Maybe StazOn would work too, I don't know. But see, look at that right there. Pretty fun little material to stamp on. All right, now what I'm going to use is I'm going to use a spray adhesive on the back of these two pieces. And I'll do it one at a time. I'll have this folded like this, and I'll drop this down like this, and try to get that butted up against that corner as much as possible. I'll just do one at a time. Doesn't matter which one you do first. And I'll try to get these two pieces butted up, this lower portion and this top portion, okay? And let's do that right now. And then what I do is, this is, I don't want to burnish on here, so what I do is I put just another, after I get this adhered down, what I do is I take another piece of paper and then I just kind of lightly spread it around like that, some pressure to, get this lower portion, or these portions to adhere to our card-based surface. All right, let's go do that right now. All right, this is what we're looking at right now. Now, I mentioned about manually adding in some stars or something like that with a paint pen or a gel pen. I'm going to do that just for a few touches. I guess I couldn't resist. I'm going to put a few little touches of some, kind of like some water spray or something like that down this little lower area like this, and it'll bring a little bit of continuity to just the whatever, the textural continuity from top to bottom. Now, one of the things you might do is you might kind of spray seal some of these stars down here with a workable fixative. Okay, they are a little bit chalky in terms of a finish without locking them down. And then if you're doing a lot of, opening and closing of this, some of that could get down here. So it'd be good to kind of lock them down a little bit. So just a little quick spray sealant in here. So anyways, here's the card. Oh, by the way, so when I'm adding these two different components into the inner card area, I don't get it matched up perfectly. See, like right here, I don't know if you can see that, but I'm a little bit right of this edge right here, and see right over here, it's kind of hanging off around the edge. What you do is you put the two components in here. You try not to get a big space in the middle, though, if you know, you can avoid that. But what you do is, after you do this, what you do is you put this in your paper trimmer and just trim off these edges to get them nice and flush. But see this right here? You get a nice kind of opening and reveal like that. Starting off with some really dynamic papers like this or surfaces can be a lot of fun. And if you're doing a quick card where you're not going to do a lot of time doing things like coloring, you can just start off with a surface that already has the color in it. And this one, of course, it's the color, plus it's also very dynamic. I was thinking about this moon right here. This might be kind of cool up here, just as a little bit of an extra thing. Or a little quote stamp up here would be kind of cool, like a word stamp. But, something like that might be kind of fun. And that glow-in-the-dark, that moon is a glow-in-the-dark one sticker, so it would go in there nicely. So I think I'm going to just leave it like this for right now, and I might add in something later. But anyways, here's your card like that. And look at those, whatever, striations and reflections down that water section. Isn't that really fun? This is a really super dynamic reveal here with that holographic. And it's like, in terms of visual drama and things like that, I don't know, I guess the horses are dramatic just in their own as well, but in terms of like coloring dynamics or something like that, you have a surface that's really doing a lot of the heavy lifting for us and providing us with that type of whatever motion and color and dynamics and movement, etc., etc., etc. And then if you're doing it in a reflection card format, it really gets doubled. Look at this, even like my hand kind of moving in here changes things. So it's really just a really type of fun surface to work on with. That being said, it's the solid types of images, that are kind of more silhouette. I don't know what the thing is. It's like if it's a 1/4 inch, in terms of darkness, those ones might not stamp as well. There might be another way to do it too. Maybe if I spray some workable fixative on this surface first, where it gives it a little bit more kind of tooth to grab onto, some texturing, maybe I can get a better impression. I'll have to experiment a little bit with that. When you do start spraying things like acrylics over these things, it might not be quite as dynamic. There might be a little bit of like a diffusion of it, but if it gives us kind of some easier application techniques in terms of stamping, maybe it'd be worth it. So like the workable fixative is one, because it's always like a matte. It's very thin and it dries really quickly. So, but otherwise, I just, I think it's worth the little coloring. We do a lot of coloring for things, so it's, it seems strange for us to color in a silhouette type of impression, but since we don't have to do any other coloring on this type of thing, doing something with the, whatever, a Sharpie pen instead of like a, whatever, an alcohol marker to color in a lot of things. It's, I don't know, to me, it's the same type of thing. So process, in terms of getting doing whatever we need to do to get, the desired result. But just the biggest thing is, I always say, just stamp out a few things on a different piece of paper, like a scratch piece, so if you're going to be stamping StazOn on a piece of foil, have a scrap piece of foil and just do a few impressions. You might not get it the first time. You might find that little skewing type of thing. It happens to me, but I think the results are worth it. And I think the media surface combination is definitely well worth it. You can get some really dynamic results in a very quick, kind of process card. I don't know. A lot of people think you can't stamp on metallics. That's one of the comments that I've had the most when people see some of my pieces on the foils like this, the metallics. So I don't know. I guess I didn't hear those types of things that, what we couldn't do. So I give it a try. And you just have to kind of work with it a little bit. And, you know, I do it every time I get around to it. If I don't do it for a while, it's like, oh yeah, I get, you know, that kind of wiggly, you know, skewing or something like that movement if I'm going with too thick of an ink and I'm stamping too quickly and not, you know, just not really thinking about that, I don't know, whatever dragging, smearing dynamic of it. All right, if you have any questions, drop me a note in the comment section. Thanks for watching.